become available and when? So if you turn around and tell me that, all right, as an industry, 250 megahertz is going to be made available to you in 2015, and another 300 is going to be made available to you in 2016 or 17 or whatever it is, then industry also knows how to plan for bringing additional spectrum on and utilizing it more efficiently. But if it is these knee-jerk kind of stop, start, when I want to give it to you, I'll give it to you, and I hold back a little bit and I will factor the design in such a fashion so that revenue maximization is the topmost of the priority, then you have problems.
Thank you so much to all of you for very insightful slides and a discussion that's really been very helpful. One of the key things that struck out to me here is that, you know, these parameters like the scarcity of overall spectrum available, the scarcity of contiguous spectrum available, and finally, as Mr. Mukherjee just pointed out, lack of visibility into what comes into the market when. And we've all been very introspective this morning and looked into what we could have done better and the theoretical aspects of it as well as what's happened in practice. But are there international benchmarks of nations who've got it right that could serve as guidelines, guideposts for us to therefore adapt and improve what we can do better going forward? Secondly, to one of the slides that Mr. Mukherjee had about a large part of the spectrum being with operators who have a much smaller proportion of subscribers and hence are inefficient users of that resource, do you suspect that market forces and economic pressures would force some of those players to sell out, and with the policy being supportive, a natural realignment would happen?
Thank you very much for that. But let me just take that last question first. The telecom industry is a very curious industry. It's a licensed industry. But unlike a lot of other industries which are also licensed, there is no exit route on this. So if you decide to become a telecom operator and you can pick up a license, and under today's rules, you cannot do anything unless you have some spectrum if you're in the wireless system. But if you want to lay out a cable network, you can do so with an existing license. But if you choose after 6 or 7 years and you find that, all right, I made an investment of X and my business case is not working out, I can just go back into the ministry and say, all right, thank you, sir, it's been a bad business case for me, and I'm walking away. There is no way of doing that. Absolutely none, right? So if I have spectrum and I want to get rid of it, the only way I can do it is by going to the marketplace and trying to get in with a merger or acquisition, the rules of which are still being framed. So actually speaking, once you're in, you're hogtied, right? Now that's a complete disaster in the making. So the bottom end of your operators, can they exit? Not until such time as there's a clear mergers and acquisitions policy. To come therefore to your first question, the efficiency of the spectrum. This issue of efficiency of spectrum is only coming up because there's a desperate shortage of it. And therefore, there is a comparison which is being made. But as I said when I was making my presentation, it's a classic 80-20 situation. I think right across the world, you will possibly find that the incumbent and the large operators are using almost the same amount of spectrum that the small ones are. So that inefficiency imbalance exists, I think, internationally. I think it pains more here because the larger operators are starved for spectrum. In the West, I think recently in the UK, there was a new operator who was paid some ginormous amount of money, and the money is not relevant, but the amount of spectrum that he's got is interesting. He's got 65 megahertz of spectrum. And here, all the numbers that I was quoting to you, 3,100 megahertz, has to be first divided by 22 and then divided by 8. because that's the number of players you have. And then you'll get the size of what the holding of each operator is. And if I really give it to you, you laugh. It's not in excess of 8 megahertz per operator is the average holding in the country. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think it's getting to high time to conclude. On behalf of all of us present here, I would like to convey a very warm thank you to all the panelists here for an extremely high quality presentation and discussion.
On behalf of ICRIER, I would like to thank Professor Abhijit Banerjee for chairing this session. Thank you so much. And to all the panelists, the audience for engaging in such an interesting discussion. Will everybody like to join us for lunch? And the next session will begin at 2, or so should we delay? 2:15? 2:15.